Welcome one and all to Mrs. K's way of finding probability of an event. Today's video is going to be talking only about two different things, but I need to go into some pretty big explanations. So the first thing we're going to talk about is what probability is, and the second is trying to find the probability of an event. Let's talk about what is probability. We usually said the word probably or said the word chance, but what we are really talking about is the likelihood that an event will occur. And we usually use the word chance to imply that likelihood is available. So the first thing that we need to talk about is the scale of probability. So what we have here is that we can go from 0 to 1. And the reason for this is because 0 is something impossible to happen, while 1 is something that is certain to happen. And an example of something that's certain to happen is that the sun will rise. What is impossible is to have light when you also have dark. So those are usually some opposites. We also can use this not just as 0 as a whole number, but we can also talk about it in percentages and in decimal form. Same with certainty. If something was to happen 100% of the time, that is very certain, or as a decimal, that would be 1 whole. Or and then as a fraction, that would also be 1 whole as well. Now, if something is not necessarily for certain and not necessarily impossible, that's right in the middle here, and we call that having an even chance. So, of course, I can either have a heads or a tails, and that's even, and we would numerically say that is a 1/2 chance, a 50%, or a 0.5% chance, or 0.5 chance of happening. Anything between impossible and an even chance is less likely to occur, and anything between even chance and certainty is more likely to occur. And a quick example of that is 1 in 6 chance of scoring a 4 on a piece of dice, or 4 out of 5 chance of getting a ball that is blue versus a red ball. Please make sure that you pause the video and write down all of these different scales into your math notebook. Got it all down? Great, then let's go on. Now we're going to talk about finding probability of an event. We're going to try to calculate the likelihood of some event occurring. It's good to know that an event can have one or more different favorable outcomes. But for this first example, we're just going to have one favorable outcome. But how you can find the probability of an event is you take the number of favorable outcomes of a specific event. So if I'm looking for something certain like heads or flipping tails of a coin, I'm going to look at the favorable outcome and I'm going to divide it by the number of equally likely outcomes. And if you remember in our previous video, this is the same as just trying to find the sample space. So how many different outcomes are there in the whole entire sample space? And we're going to compare that to just the favorable outcomes of the event. This is easier when you can actually see the example. So let's come up with one. When opening a pack of Starburst, what is the probability you will get an orange candy first? So I'm looking over here, and this is making my mouth water, but let's keep up with the example. The first thing we need to do is write the event. So for the first thing we do is we take and we just put a P for probability, and then an O. We're just going to use O because it's an orange candy. So the probability of an orange is the number of favorable outcomes divided by the sample space. So when we're looking at this is the exact same equation as we have written above right here. I just kind of wrote it a little smaller. So the number of favorable outcomes divided by the sample space. Now, if we're looking for just an orange candy, we can even see here with all of our different candies that there happens to be one orange candy. So we can have that be our first outcome, a favorable outcome, is just finding one of those different candies. And we're going to divide it by our sample space, which happens to be a total of 1, 2, 3, 4 different outcomes. So our sample space is just going to be 4. Now, if we want to write this as a fraction, we've already have it, that 1 out of 4 of chance of being able to get a orange candy. We can also obviously write that as a, let me see here, I'm losing my mind here. Okay, yes. We can also write this as a fraction of 25 hundredths, which we know would also be as written as a decimal of 0.25. And we can also write that, of course, as 25%. So if we wanted to write this in a sentence form, which you will be having to do when I ask you guys, but there's a 25% chance that you will get an orange candy first when opening a pack of Starburst. Real quick, just let's look at a second example that deals with the same Starburst. But this time, we're going to look to see what the probability is to get an orange, pink, or red candy first. So we're going to let event X be the event of choosing these colors. So the first thing we do, of course, is be able to write down our probability, where event X, that is equal to the number of outcomes over the sample space. Now, since we have 3 different colors, orange, pink, or red, our number of outcomes is 3, but our sample space is still 4. So overall, we know that 3 out of 4 of the candies could be possibility, which is 0.75, 75 hundredths, or 75%. So our final answer is there is a 75% or a more likely chance that you will get a Starburst that is either orange, pink, or red for the first candy. Here's Callie with her latest trick. Callie? Lay. Roll. Roll. Yay! Good girl, Callie. Good girl. Thanks, guys. See you later.